Namaskar, Sasyakal, Adab, and a very good evening to everyone at Motherhood Club. This is Ekta Sehgal, founder and chief strategy officer, Motherhood Club. I know we meet each other very frequently, but I'm coming back to meet you all after a long haul. Well, sometimes health does take a toll on you, and that's why the break was there. But as they say, when you come back with a bang. Today, we have a very special guest, all the way from Norway, though she's from the Indian origin, but born and brought up in Norway. What should I say about her? Well, of course, I'm going to give out her name. She's Richa Chandra, by profession, a business coach, by heart, an artist par excellence, someone who went on stage for the first time when she was 5. Music and dance is in her. And as you can see, that radiant smile on her face actually tells us that how she is feeling when we are talking about music and dance. So much so that she actually has brought the Indian culture in Norway, telling people about the music and dance and teaching them, talking about it. And it just doesn't stop here. She's a mother to 2 teenage children, a boy and a girl. Multiple businesses she runs. And one thing that is common between Richa and me is we both cannot sit idle. So we are up to something here and there, figuring out what next. And that's, I think, something that really bonds Richa and me from the very first conversation that Richa and I had. So, very warm welcome, Richa, at Motherhood. How are you doing?
Namaste, and thank you so much, Agda, for a beautiful introduction. Thank you so much. I feel so honored to be here, and thank you for having me. Yes, it's true what you say that music and dance lives in my heart, and it's in every cell of my body. So, thank you for creating this stage, and we definitely connect on the platform where we both want to make a difference and we want to help other to change and we have some tools, some experiences that we want to share with everybody who wants to have a change in their life. So I guess that's where we both connect.
Absolutely. So, Richa, there is something that I just don't like is to read out somebody's profile because I think that is so boring. But we love to hear from our guest where they introduce themselves a little more than what we know about them because you alone can actually justify to talk about all the achievements, all the wonderful things that you have done in life. So we'd request you to kindly introduce yourself to our viewers who are watching us on Facebook, YouTube, and LinkedIn to know who Richa is actually.
Well, yes, it is a very philosophical question, isn't it? Who am I? Well, for the facts, I was born in Norway to Indian parents who came here for work. My father came here in 1970 and my mother 75. So as I said, I was born here and I have a younger brother who's a doctor. He completed their dream of becoming a doctor. It was actually a dream that my parents had for me, or my father, I would say. And I couldn't do it because I wasn't as school smart as I guess they hoped I was. So that kind of a pressure I pushed on myself. I wanted to, like a lot of Indian children, they want to impress their parents and want to complete their dreams. So for many years, I thought being a doctor was my dream as well. Until I almost failed in chemistry, you know, I had something called dyslexia, so it was difficult for me to read and write. Um, I was kind of gotten that diagnosis when I was in college. That's when my professor said, you know, I think you have dyslexia. And suddenly a new world opened for me because I got computer. I was allowed to use computer in exams. I got more time, and everything got easy from there. So then, as an overachiever, I completed my education in computer science, a programmer, and same time I kept on having my education in Kathak, because Kathak is much more a practical, art form, which was easier for me. And it really helped me as well in my studies to be active and to be mindful. And it is for me, it's a form for meditation. Also, it was a way my mother introduced me to Indian culture. She wanted me to stay connected to it. And growing up in Norway, where you have Norwegian culture, Norwegian language, only, I had a lot of Norwegian friends, but through the dance, I connected with the Indian community much more. And we together had something in common, that we wanted to learn Indian dance and go deeper into it. We just didn't learn the language, but we also learned a lot of Sanskrit words and mantras and traditions. Why do people do the way they do it? We learned a lot of history. We had to watch patriotic movies to get that national feeling that we belong to India. See, there is a difference, because we look Indian, but we're born here. So we are Norwegians, but we don't look like Norwegians. We are Indians, and when we go to India, we are not accepted as Indians, because we're not Indians in the way we behave. It's not enough to look Indian. It's not enough to speak Hindi. It's not enough to know about the history. You have to live there to become an Indian. That's the criteria that we were always measured by. So, but through dance, we kind of connected. So we kind of, what do you call it? It's a new word that I learned recently. Third cultural children.
Okay. Third
So we
culture.
have the third culture, that is a mix of where we're brought up and the heritage that we have got. So because we had the same situations, we connected over dance and music, which is a beautiful way to connect. And we traveled all Norway together, and now I travel to India as well. So um, yeah, so that's me. But growing up, I thought I wanted an Indian husband because I speak Hindi. I love Bollywood new movies, and I think in Hindi a lot. So I thought my it would be a better match for me to have an Indian husband. And so my journey went to India when I was in between studies and jobs. So I was completing my studies, and before I wanted to go into a professional job, my parents said, let's go to India and find you a suitable husband. So I stayed in India. I did some courses in NIT while I was there, but unfortunately we couldn't find a match. So I came back, and suddenly I met my husband. So his origin is Norwegian. So yeah, so that's me. And in 2006, I founded the first company. But I had been a CEO for a while for what was, it's now called Indian Rhythms, but at that time it was called Damni House of Culture. So yeah, so that was the organization that my mom founded in 1986, something like that, for the dance. So we used to perform, and she built this organization from scratch. And she used to teach all of the dancers who wanted to learn dancing. And she invited professional dancers from India and England to teach us. So she gave a lot to the community, and she helped a lot of youngsters find their way and communicate with their parents, because through dance, as I said, we understood why people think the way they think, or what is the reason behind the Indian parents to be so strict, or where is this coming from. So through the dance, we just didn't learn the dance in itself, but actual culture, the philosophy, the mythology, the way of thinking and the way of living. So my mother started all of that, and so I ran that company with her a little bit. So through her, I learned how to raise money, create big projects, uh, logistics. I learned even how to do accounts before I was 16 years old. And through my dad, I learned business. He ran his own business. So without me actually understanding what I was getting, I got a lot of gifts from my parents because they involved me in their companies and organizations since I was very, very young. So hence, I don't think a lot of people understand what they're getting, all the gifts that they're getting from their parents. But if they look at it, where we are today could be an indirect way of gifts that we have gotten from them. It's not a
Absolutely.
sustainable direct gift, but because my mother took me everywhere, all of the programs, all of the projects, all of the thought process, I was there with her. For me, it became a second nature to start a new, let's do an event, let's do this. For me, it's not a challenge to start something. It's just, the way I think now. So, yeah.
Super. So wonderful. You got the best of both the worlds of
Yeah.
the business acumen, the accounting aspect from your dad, and your mom brought in the culture. And I
Yes.
think, one may stay anywhere, but the moment you start connecting to the culture, the more deep rooted you become and the more humble become, because that's when you start reading and appreciating all that is around you.
Yeah.
And obviously I think when you understand the culture, you understand the history, the mythology and everything around it, you start actually being the human that you are actually supposed to be. And that's a
Yeah.
comment that we have from Mr. Bhatnagar, that being human matters the most, and as it appears, and Kathak gets you connected to deeply.
Yeah.
And he also says that great hobbies help create better journey. And Ila says that culture takes you closer to your roots. So before I proceed further, thank you for all of you who have joined us across platforms. So Richa, you mentioned that you were diagnosed with dyslexia during your college time. Dyslexia is a challenge where you are unable to read and write properly. Did that have a negative impact in your growing years? As you
Yes.
mentioned that your parents wanted you to be a doctor, but because of perhaps it was this reason which was unidentified, and maybe back then, not many people were aware about dyslexia. But how did it impact your growing years because of this challenge which was not identified?
I there were many challenges. I think the worst was that I was very hard on myself, because there is no, coming around with it. You compare yourself with other students, and I understood everything that was taught. It wasn't that I wasn't understanding it. So when somebody read it loud for me, I would remember it, I'll understand it. It was when I was to produce a text, or if I was supposed to write something or read something, difficult math questions. I was really good in maths, but to understand what are they asking me, that was a challenge. So I would get grades which was not up to the level that I thought I was. I always thought that I know this. Why I'm not able to answer in the test, and because your parents are not a part of your school. They have their job. What they see is your grades. So when you bring home the grades, which is not a good reflection of what you actually know, it's only a reflection of how you present or how you perform that day. The test is there, and being, maybe if I was not in a good energy or good place with myself, that dyslexia would get worse. I would write, even because I wouldn't focus. I wouldn't be able to focus, and it was very challenging. And the worst thing is that I put a lot of pressure on myself, and it made me feel that there was something fundamentally wrong with me. I wasn't intelligent. Indians are looked, especially in Norway, they are looked upon as very intelligent. I was very good in math, so that, oh, you are a math person. So you're categorized right away, oh, you're a math person. and you're not a language person. But w- the day somebody saw my challenge and said, "Oh, this is what your challenge is. Here, there's some tools for you to help you with your challenge." Everything, and I feel I could breathe again. And I wish somebody had done it for me earlier, because I was struggling through school. And then when suddenly I got the tools, I did finish my whole education with top marks, and Kathak was not a problem because you have to write also in Kathak. And then I did my coaching education as well, so I got masters in coaching and then certified in coaching. So everything became so much easier because it was nothing wrong with my understanding, but it was the way I was producing it or writing it again. After that, I wrote many dance books. I wrote my own book. The first day I got published, I was like, such a big achievement for me. For many people, writing a book, it's a release, but it was a kind of a mastery feeling, because I've always been told that you can't really read write. I mean, you write so many wrong things. And it has shaped me in the sense that I now understand when people have, I can see it faster. I can see people struggling. I can see when people are shying away from writing a report or doing something, um, because I can see it. I can understand it. I can see their challenge and why they're shying away from it. Oh, they have to write it, or they have to read a big text. I started reading books because my mother was very, if you have problems with reading and writing, you have to just keep on doing it until you crack the code. So I started reading a lot of books when I was 15, 16 years old. So once I got a hang of it, I created enough pictures of the different words in my mind. So now my way of dealing with it is that I have a picture of that word, and then if it doesn't match the way I'm writing it, if those pictures don't match, that means, okay, I have to look deeper into what have I written and why doesn't it match with the book. But that comes with a lot of reading. I read and read, and I still read a lot of books. And I learned something called fast reading. So I kind of swipe through a text very, very fast. And that also helped me cope with the problem with reading out loud. So I can read fast, and then I can make sure that I've taken care of all the difficult um, words, so that I don't stutter, or I'm not afraid to read over it if somebody asks, can you read this out loud? Because when I was growing up, I was bullied a lot in that, from first year to the ninth grade. I was bullied a lot. I took a lot of physical beating as well. And one of the things that they would bully me for or tease me for was that I couldn't read properly. Whenever teacher said read out loud in the class, I couldn't complete the sentence without, breaking down almost. And so that kind of changes you as a person. You are always, it changed me, as I was a lot of nervous. I was hoping that the teacher would not pick me. I was nervous in the class. And that closes off your ability to get information in, because you're so concerned with being invisible that you're not focusing on what you're learning. So I had to do the work again when I came home and relaxed, and okay, what did we read today? What did we do today? So yes, it had a different impact at different stages of my life. But I would definitely, I still thank my mother a lot that she forced me to read. Like she would say, okay, if you complete one book, you will get 100 kroners, So she bribed me, she motivated me, and she kept on, every summer vacation, every day I had to read, even if it was for 1 hour. And in the beginning, it was challenging because it was difficult to read. But then it started to become, practice to master in everything. So I practiced, and now I read and write articles and books, and yeah. So
What important powerful journey, to have been bullied, harassed for something which is not your fault, to realize that later, and then to be at a stage that you are today, where you have authored books, you are reading, you are writing, and not only are you doing this, you're also inspiring many others to do that. So that's absolutely commendable, Richa, because unless you really get into, I mean, you can't get into the skin of the person, but unless and until you get to know the person, without being judgmental about it, only then can you appreciate the journey of that individual. That,
Yes.
there could be a struggle. And as you said, that because you've been through it, so you're able to identify that challenge with someone as to why that person is shying. Perhaps it might not just be for dyslexia, but any other resistance
The
that an
challenge.
individual, the human mind generally feels that, okay, you're making an excuse. And especially
Yeah.
as parents, you tend to, say that, okay, you're making an excuse because you don't want to write, or you don't want to read, or you don't want to do this. But one forgets to go beneath the problem as to what the challenge is. Though, on the lighter side, kids do sometimes sham that, okay, I don't want to write because I'm tired, but that doesn't mean that they have dyslexia. So I'm sure, our audience would know what dyslexia is. But if you don't know, it's basically a disability where you are unable to read and write. And sometimes you, look at some similar looking words the opposite way. And
Mm.
to know more, do watch the movie Tare Zameen Par. It is on that particular topic, which was touched upon by the great actor Amir Khan. And I think that's when most of us got to know what dyslexia is all about.
Yeah, it
So,
was such
Richa,
a relief for me. I think I had tears in my eyes when I got to know that this movie came out. I was like, wow, now now we're talking. When this came out in the light, I thought now a lot of the children will feel the relief that I felt when I wish it was, I was somebody was observant enough to have seen it before. But now I think a lot of things have changed. My son has it too. So I saw that very early. Even when he was in the kindergarten, he would shy away from writing, and whenever he would write it the wrong way. And even though it was very early, I felt that he was so quick in math. So I thought, okay, let me see. So I was like a hawk. When he started on school, I said, my son needs to be diagnosed soon. And they said, no, no, we don't do it in the first grade. I said, but I know he's struggling. And throughout second grade, in Norway, they don't do it very early. They say we wait until third grade. And I was very, very strict with them, and I helped him through homework in second grade as well. And we were spending so much time on text, which was supposed to be only a few minutes homework. We were spending like 45 minutes or an hour, and he wasn't getting through. So I just forced the school to diagnose him early, and so he got all the tools very early. He was one of the first in his class. And then later, 2 years later, they diagnosed the rest of the class, and there were 8 children who had dyslexia in his class. So, and by that time, I had already started my companies, and I was, writing along reports and running Damni House of Culture as a CEO. So my son, he's always been very positive and has a positive way, like, look on life. So he said, Mom, you can do it. You read and write so fluently, and dad comes to you when it comes to Norwegian and all of these things. And at that time we had uh what do you call it, president, who was also had dyslexia. So he said, yeah, he has it, this politician has it, they are like in big, they have
a
whole
lot of them are there. Yeah.
their career are so successful. Dyslexia is nothing, Mom, that's just a challenge. I'll make it happen. So both of my children, my daughter has also some other reading and writing challenges, and so it's easier for them, uh, because I've been very strict with the schools. I said, I need this plan. But I, as a parent, know what I want from the school. The children who have parents who don't who are not familiar with dyslexia don't know what to ask the school for, which is a challenge.
True.
And it has
I
helped me also to become much more flexible with my employees, because I know if you have a reading writing challenge, then there are tools out there, but then we can go over the text a few times. um, Also, it has made me very humble in the sense that if I make a spelling mistake, if somebody points it out to me, you just pointed out a spelling mistake to me yesterday, I guess, it doesn't bother me. It doesn't make me feel icky or bad or anything. I know you come from a place of love and you want what's best for me. And if I can't see it, if somebody points it out to me, it makes me happy, because it makes me happy that you care enough to point it out. So I think that's also, I take that also into my businesses, that if some employee asks me or say, hey, you made this mistake, or could we go over this again, I didn't, could we do this again, it doesn't sound good, or whatever you wrote, could we do that better? I think it's amazing, you know.
True. I think you've made a very valid point over here, Richa, that you were very strict with the school. I think if I look at it as a parent, what I see is that you can only be strict or only demand something one where you have the acceptance of the problem that is there,
Yes.
because once you accept it, only then can you look for a solution for it.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, most parents like to hide any of these challenges if their children have. As you mentioned that you looked at your son's writing and perhaps got him tested. I remember when my daughter was in her pre-nursery or nursery, she used to write E ulta and P ulta,
Mm.
and so sometimes B, D is the similar looking one. So because I had seen this movie and I had read about it, so my antennas also stood up that I need to keep a close watch. If she continues to do this, do I need to take any corrective steps over there? And we also discussed it with the school, her play school then, that so they said it's okay. Sometimes children do,
Do it. Yeah.
write
Yeah.
mirror image, but if it continues, then we'll see what needs to be done. But then over the weeks or so, she understood, and then she kind of got over it, and she was able to do it. But I think that's a very valid point as a parent for all of us, that if there is a challenge, rather than hiding behind it, let's accept it, because the acceptance is the first step towards finding solutions to that challenge. And
Yes.
that acceptance today will actually create a beautiful and a better journey for your child and for your own self. Otherwise, there will be a constant pressure on you and on the child to
On the
perform.
child.
And if
I
it is
think it's
beyond the child's
more.
control,
It is. I've always thought of this something that have binded me closer to my children, because I'm pushing them. I'm saying that there is no excuse. Dyslexia is not an excuse for not getting a higher education. You will get a higher education. There's no compromise on that. But I will always be there on the journey with you. You can choose whatever journey you want. You can choose whatever career you want, but it has to be a higher studies. But I will be there every step of the way, and we will make the journey easier. If I can make the journey easier to the goal, then that's my part as a parent. And I have struggled, and I think most of the parents wants their children not to struggle, but there is always a struggle, different kind of struggle. Only thing you can do is be there with them, and make sure that they know that they are supported in their journey. And it has kept us closer. If I had neglected that, if I only thought of it, but I did it, you can do it too. Instead of trying to be hard for the school and say, hey, you know what, you need to create a separate plan, you need to give them all the tools, and there's no excuse for, you cannot come to me and say, no, we don't have a teachers enough. Get the teachers, get the fundings from the government, because in Norway there are a lot of fundings for the government, from the government, that the schools can get. So you get that. Don't come to me and say, no, the school doesn't have enough money. I don't care. This is my child. This is my child's education. You get that, and I'll do my part. You do your part, and we'll help the child get a higher education. And this is just another, you know, another way of doing it. It doesn't have to be, you know, this your way is not the only way. Let us find another way and help the children that needs it. And
Absolutely.
and for me, this has brought me closer to my children because they know they can come to me whenever they have a challenge. And instead of shying away from the challenge, they say, okay, mom, how do I solve this? What is the solution? How can you help me find a new way to study? How do I find this? And so yes, I do spend a lot of time, but I guess a lot of Indian parents do that, spend a lot of time with the homework. And so we do that. It might take an extra time, but you have to take out that time no matter what.
Absolutely. That's so true. In fact, Eli is sharing that one of her friend who had shifted their kid from school to school, when the school pointed out that their kid is dyslexic, their kid paid a terrible price for their defiance and not accepting the problem. In fact, I remember hosting a mother on our platform where one is dyslexia. There is another similar term which is more about the ability to read, not just write, and
Yeah.
comprehension. Where
Yeah.
this child, the mother was a topper all along, works in an MNC, doing extremely well, and so was the husband. There was complete denial to begin with, that how can our son fail? So
Yeah.
they changed school, and finally it reached a point where the school said, if you don't get your child up the curve, we're going to, rusticate the child. That's when they met some other principal who identified what the problem is.
Hmm.
And the child also went up to the mother and said that, why are you so bothered about me being good in English and maths? My forte is music. And
Hmm.
today, the child is an adult and is doing exceptionally well in music. So I think as parents, we sometimes get caught up in our own legacy, in our own cocoon, and
Hmm.
keep knitting it to brew it. But I think that's not the way. We're all unique individuals, and
Yeah.
if you're able to identify that uniqueness, we can advance further. And I think each parent, each child is always work in progress. We can never be the perfect child or the parent. So Richa had a tough childhood, reached a point where the problem was diagnosed. You found the solution, and your mom was instrumental. She helped you. You were given a lot of opportunities all throughout your growing years. And then you spoke about you being a mom and how you are helping your children. So, you actually took away a lot of my questions and you answered them on your own. But here is the question that you have titled your journey, that motherhood made you a better CEO. Let's
Yeah.
dwell a little bit on this. How has motherhood shaped Richa, the businesswoman, the woman, and the mother?
Okay, there are many aspects to that. First, I want to kind of rewind it a little bit to when my mother founded the first organization. So I would observe my mother while she was so giving and so open to all of the children that would come. And she had some really difficult cases. She would never share that with me. That child might come through child services or something, or there are challenges in the family, and she would really work with the children through the dance and through the music, but also separately she will talk to them. So as I say many times, I shared my mother with a lot of children. I, of course, I had to share him with her with my brother, that's given, but to share her with the rest of the world. But um it never bothered me, actually, because I could see how much she invested in all of the children that came to her. And when I took over, I was still unmarried, and or I just, yeah, I had gotten married, but it wasn't before I got my son that my love for all the people grew, not just children. It's some kind of a love flood that he opened brought with him. Uh, so it became so much easier to connect with everybody who was in that organization. Uh, because I don't know what happened, but becoming a mother gave me that mm, taste of loving unconditionally, because I loved my son unconditionally. So I just transferred that love to everybody else. First, it
Wow.
started with other children. I would see them as my own child. So if I can feel that love for my child, I should feel that love for somebody else's child, so that it became a coaching kind of, not a challenge, but and not an experiment, but kind of a feeling that I needed to do this. It was more like just transfer that love to next person, next child. And it became so easy for me to love them all the way I could see my mother loving them all, and and I understood. And then it started to go to, even though my son was very young, I could easily transfer that kind of love to youngsters and then to adults. So when I had other teachers and other employees, I just, whenever I felt, oh, things are not going the way I wanted, or the company is not going the way I wanted, or I didn't get that grant, I usually just would meditate and then transfer that kind of love that I felt for my child to the either the situation or the employees, or whoever was in front of me. And I truly believe that made me much more of an open, um what I call it, boss or a leader or whatever. And I kept on having that kind of a practice. I do forget it sometimes. So I have to go back and, rewind, and, oh, now I have to go back into that. So it, but it became so much easier when I had my son everywhere, because my love for him wouldn't change. So when he was very young, or my daughter, when she got born, I was teaching Kathak while both of the time I was pregnant. But when she was very small, I had her in a carriage here, and I would teach, and that carrying her here beside my heart would easily trigger that motherly love for everybody. And so I just kept on radiating that and thinking that way, and that this man or this woman is somebody's child. So if I can feel that to my child, why not to that person? And so it was easier for me to, I was still strict, I'm still strict boss, I think, but very clear. I don't easily get mad, but yeah.
Wow, that's so beautiful. So, to love everyone because you found the love in your life, the abundance that came in with your children. Could one also say that you started loving yourself more after you gave birth to children, and that is why the acceptance to absorb and to give back, you were actually radiating what you were receiving and you were giving it back to the universe?
Not with my son right away, because my son's birth was very difficult. I actually left my body for a few seconds and actually said my byes, because the birth of him was very, very difficult, and I lost a lot of blood which was not discovered. So I was, what do you call it, re-alive, this, a lot of these things, and I got a lot of blood. They had to kind of give me a lot of blood and so on. So I there was a little while there was touch and go right after my son's birth, and that actually brought post what do you call it, the depression.
Postpartum,
Yeah,
postpartum depression.
yeah, yeah. That's that brought on that depression. And I was in a place where I was very depressed, because I couldn't feel the connection that I felt with my son when he was inside me. When I was pregnant, I could feel him. I could feel that connection, and he and I was one. And we would sit all night and talk, and he would respond, and there was this connection. And then after the birth, because I was kind of a little bit out of it, uh, I didn't connect with him. And I felt like a really bad mother. I felt very, very bad. Um, but it took a little time. And even being a coach, I couldn't diagnose myself, obviously. But it took a little time, and I said, okay, enough is enough. I can't go around feeling depressed. I can't, I'm not good for anybody like this. So when I met on the, what do you call it? It was a day when I thought I'll end it all. But because he was in the house, I said no. I didn't want to go that way. So I turned it around and I said, I want to be the best mother I can. And that was the day I kind of embraced it and changed myself, changed everything with myself. And I connected with him. I That's when the flood came. So yes, it was difficult. I didn't like the way I looked because the birth had taken a lot of toll on my physical body. I couldn't, I didn't love myself, so I didn't understand how my husband can love me. I didn't feel the connection with my son, so I didn't understand how can he love me. But I didn't start with love. I started with liking. So I started finding things I liked about myself, because when you are so down and you can't feel the love, you have to start liking things. And there's always something you like about yourself or can like about yourself. So I started liking things, and just in a few weeks, I turned it into love. And the moment it felt into love, I connected with my son, and that's when the love started. Both because I felt his love for me and I loved him back, and my husband loved me and I loved him back. And loving yourself sometimes is much more difficult than to love your children or love your husband. But in reflection of their love, you can start understanding the love you have for yourself. So yeah, it took me some time, but when it first came and I let it come, it flooded. Yes, and when my daughter was born, I kind of fell into balance. So I say he's born. My son Shlok, he's born the day of tsunami. So I say he brought the tsunami and she brought the balance. So I just joke about it, but yeah, she brought the balance into my life. So both with physical aspect, mental aspect, emotional aspect. So yeah, but
Goosebumps. And I'm absorbing what you're saying, because to have a near death experience and then to, leading into postpartum to a point where you want to just end it all and then to bounce back. I mean, hats off. One, to have done what you have, because it takes a lot of courage to swing this way or the other way. That is one. And two, to accept it, to own it, and to talk about it in front of so many people is, like, really kudos to you. It's not easy. And I mean, I really have goosebumps. I don't know what to ask you on this, but all I can say is give you a virtual hug for, for being you, because if it wasn't that step that you took that day, perhaps all the beautiful things that you've created for yourself, for your family, for all the people around you would have completely been a miss, and the universe would have found an empty spot.
oh, oh,
But
thank you
you,
so much. That
uh,
was really nice of you to say. I felt that I had a choice because I I felt that I had a choice to leave when on the when I was giving birth after that. So I chose to leave, but then I came back, and that was not my decision. But when I was back, I thought, and when I was again, I had a choice. The second time, it was again my choice to stay. And then thought, okay, I've given birth to this beautiful baby, and life could be beautiful. I just have to choose to look at it that way. And now that I feel that I've been born again as a mother, as a daughter, as a myself, as a wife, or whatever you want to call it, um, I want to do something with it. I want to make a difference. I just don't want to live for myself. I want to try to make a difference. And yes, as you said, it's not easy to accept that mm, that you don't connect with your child. It's something social with it. It's not easy to say that, but I talked to my children about it, because before I talked to anybody about it, I said to my children, I'm going to talk about this because I want to help others. So don't feel bad, because I love you more than life. It's not that I didn't love you. I just couldn't feel it. I couldn't see it. So, and my son knows that I love him more than life now. And I chose to stay because I wanted to have that relationship with him that we have, that connection, but also that I want to make it easy for others to accept that postnatal depression is something, and we need to face it. That a lot of people don't have the resources to choose. They don't understand what is going on. I didn't know that that's what I was suffering from. It took me a long time to understand and get a name on it. So I chose that, and I did choose also to have my daughter, because I was scared to have another child, but I wanted to have a girl. I wanted to have a baby girl. I always wanted to have a girl in my life. And I was right. She brought the balance into my life. She's so caring. She's keep me grounded. Whenever I want to fly out, she's like, Mom, come back to earth. Girls can
Yeah,
be
that's what
challenging
that.
to raise,
They
and
are a, they are a mirror image of you. With standing there with a whip in their hand, and you better do this. I can so understand that. I can understand that. All right, so let's move to a different aspect of your life, Richa.
yeah.
Uh, you are working for yourself, and you're also working towards bettering the life of many people in general and women at large. You're a business coach. Of course, that's your profession, where you're able to identify and help them better in what they do. But your keenness to support women, not just back in Norway, but also in India, you know where does that come from? What drives you to help women better become more empowered than what they already are? What's
Mm.
your driving force?
Um, my driving force is, I always say that my client's success is my success, and everybody wants to be successful. So I think if I can make my clients successful, or any other women successful, achieve their dreams, then I feel, that's a part of my journey. It feels good, to make them see their potential. And as I said, I'm very blessed. I am born in Norway. There are a lot of opportunities here. Um, and I think there are a lot of opportunities in India also, but there could be a lot of challenges with the society, with the lack of support, and lack of understanding. So what they want to do, so, and it's not always easy to see how can I reach my goal. I think I have a superpower. If you tell me I want to reach there, I think my superpower is that, okay, how do I reverse engineer that and help them reach that goal? So, yeah, I'm blessed with that kind of a superpower, I call it. It's easy for me, somebody say, okay, I want to create an online course about this and this and this. I say, okay, so this is how they want to go, and these are the da da da, and then I reverse engineer it, and we can create a plan, and I can help them reach there. So I guess when I'm blessed with that kind of superpower, I easily implement it. Yeah, yeah. So that's and yes, the motivation, the drive, the passion is that there's enough for everybody. There is so much abundance. There's so much. There could be five different coaches, and there might be same subject that they are teaching or coaching on, but there are so many different people that would connect with the different five coaches. So I think of abundance. I don't think of a competition. I think of we all can make a difference. A person who will connect with you might not want to connect with me because they think my voice is different, or the way I teach they don't like it, but they will connect with you because they like the way your energy is, or they resonate better with you. So I think if we think of a common goal, that the importance is that everybody get a little piece of the pie, and we can all be happier if we share. I think that mindset drives me. That mindset, that is my drive, that everybody should have a piece of the pie.
Super. Sitting in Norway, you are heading a national level chair of an organization called G100,
Mhm.
talking about empowering female CEOs and creating the possibility of wealth creation, a mindset of empowering women to be able to do something for themselves.
Mm.
Why would you do this? Why India?
Yeah.
While I do understand that your roots belong to the country, but you've been born and brought up, you're working there, everything is back there. What connects you to the Indian women?
I don't know what is not to love of Indian women. I love the passion. I love the energy. I love the way they embrace, many of them, not all of them, embrace the feminine energy. The Norwegian women often are taught to embrace the masculine energy, and I connect better with Indian women because they embrace the feminine energy much more. And I what I observed, growing up in Norway, we are very independent when it comes to earning our own money, our own finances. It's mine. I don't share it with my husband. Of course, we have a share account, and we can talk about money. And because we have a family, we run it together. But if I want, I can invest, and whatever I want, you can talk about it, but it's because I want to invest in it. I'm very independent. Even my father said, you have to be independent, earn your own money, be very financially strong. And I have depth knowledge of my finances. I know every kroner that is going out and in. And but when I started my work in networking in India, a lot of successful businesswomen would always lean on some male figure in their family. It could be their son, husband, father, uncle, whatever. And they kind of said, yes, but before I make this investment, I have to talk to, you know. And I was like, really? You do? Why? Why do you have to talk to them? Um, and it wasn't a natural mindset for them to just think, okay, this is good for my future or my daughter's future, or this is a good investment, or this is investing in myself. Let's say it's not about huge crores. We're talking about maybe a few lakhs or thousands investing in themselves for a coach or whatever. Even then they have to ask, whereas I don't ask for those. If I'm investing something in myself, it's my money, it's the money I earn. So it seems a little bit selfish, but I for me that was an eye opener, that we are so different from each other. that the society or the Indian women not necessarily open up to invest in their self so easily. Um, I don't know if I'm right or wrong, but that was the first thing I got when I started my journey with working with the Indian women in India. Um, and so I, when I was asked to be the country chair for female CEOs and wealth creation G100, I said yes, because I'm not talking about every woman, but most of the CEOs or the founders of different company entrepreneurs I met had the same mindset. And some of them, which I met, had husbands who have invested a lot and lost a lot, but they were afraid of investing themselves because what if they lost something? It was okay that their husband lost it, but what if they lost it? They had to listen. Blah, 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 blah. Everybody would say, "You lost all this money," you know. So this was their fear, and so when I was asked to be the country chair, I said, "Okay, this is going to be my mission. I want women to have the knowledge of their finances. I'm not saying they have to tear them away from their family or become so independent. I'm not saying that. I'm saying, what about getting the knowledge so you don't have to feel the, so you feel empowered, so you feel enlightened, so you feel in control um, of the finances. I'm not saying just go out and invest in everything, but get the knowledge, get the education, get the confidence so that you can do it if you want to do it, so you don't feel dependent on anybody. So that's where it started, and that's why I and then I was lucky to meet beautiful women like you, and that is also one of the reasons why I wouldn't do this, because I'm so lucky. I feel really what do you call it, blessed that through all of this network, that I'm meeting people like you and Ilaji, and otherwise I wouldn't have met you guys. How would I met you guys? But because this network is there, I'm able to meet so you know talented and successful women like you guys. So I think it's a win-win situation.
Absolutely. No, I think you're very right. Being a part of the financial space and what you said is absolutely correct. That we've advanced so much. We've taken many steps to step out of the four walls of the household to educate ourselves, to start working, become entrepreneurs, excel in many fields and aspects of life. But unfortunately, even today, uh, you know, the money matters is one area where we are getting there, but we're still not there, I would say.
Mhm.
And, a lot of data, a lot of statistics does get released about women's share in the industry of a certain asset class or product. But my question to any research analyst is just simple question. How do you validate that these are the actual decision makers and not the trophy holders of that account? There is a huge
Mhm.
difference, right?
Mhm.
I could
Mhm.
have an investment in my name, but am I the one who's calling the shots?
Correct.
That can only be identified when you actually speak to women or you
Mhm.
actually do you know a kind of an analysis to figure out what is the financial literacy level, which unfortunately is a mere 26 odd percent for the country and 24% for women. So how
Mhm.
come that rate isn't increasing, but the number of women investors is increasing? So there is a dichotomy over there. So I'm also trying to find out answers to that, and I'm sure together we'll be able to get
Yes.
there.
Yes.
And but yes, you're absolutely right. That's one space where I would say women across the world are in a similar boat with a little bit up and down. But yes, some empowered nations where women have advanced. And I think the reason is that we're still not confident in our own skin.
Mhm.
And once we get there, I think we will be able to, as in one of our conversations, you had mentioned that we are trying to find out what we need and are not being able to focus on what we really want. So, the want is getting sidelined. We're focusing on what we need and trying to dig it all. So, yeah, but I guess, everybody is working in the right direction to be able to achieve that. So, okay. So, Richa, we are almost an hour into our conversation. And I just want to ask you this one last question, that if I had to ask you the three most important learnings of your life till date, which would also be your three guiding principles or advice to other mothers, what would that be?
To other mothers. Um,
After all, mothers are the best CEOs, right?
they are, they are, they are. Um, oh, that's spend as much time as you can um, with their nears and dears, the people that you truly love, and spend as much time, because time is something that never comes back. um, Career will always be there. I listened to somebody yesterday talking about, and I live by this also. I always think, what would people say if they come to my funeral? you know they will not, they will not list up all my success and all my career. They would say, she was a I want them to say she was a good mother. I want them to say she was a good teacher, or she was somebody had an impact in my life. So whenever I think about that, I that's how I make my choices. And luckily, because I have that in mind, and I always think of abundance when I make any decisions, and love, motherly love, care. I think that is why my career also, my company is also making, having, growth, and I'm succeeding, and I'm happy with what I'm doing. I'm making choices out of love, so I'm always satisfied with that. um Define your own success. Don't ever compare yourself with other or success. Either it is success with your the way you raised your children, or the way you run your house, or success with the relationship with your husband, or whatever it is. Define your own success. What it does success mean to you, and how does it look in every area in your life? So have your own definition of success. When do you feel successful, and how do you feel successful? Because that is only you who can know that. So when I can make a good decision and I go to bed without any worries or any regrets, that could be a successful day for me, you know. Um, so that was two. And take a good care of yourself, you know, choose yourself first. People talk about me time, but I would say, call it whatever you want, but make time for yourself. I make time for myself every day, and even in that 20 minutes or half an hour, I don't even talk to my children, because that time I'm not available for anybody but me. And so that has brought me back from, you heard my story, that brought me back from difficult times. It helps me ground myself, center myself, and it's only me and the higher self or God or whatever you believe in connect, because that's where I recharge my batteries, emotional batteries, physical batteries, whatever it is. And yeah, so make out time for yourself, and just sit with yourself. So these are the
Absolutely.
three things I would say.
So spend time with people who matter to you the most. Define your own success and have your own time. Take care of your own self, is
Yeah.
what Richa is telling us. And I'm sure she's telling all of this basis the experiences that she's had, the good, the bad, the ugly. And I think for those of you who would have missed the conversation or would have got a phone call and would have jumped off the conversation, or who hasn't heard it as yet, take out time to listen to this 1 hour of conversation to actually know that this woman sitting here smiling is made out of steel, but her core is very soft. To
Oh,
have experienced something as she shared, to touch and go, to swing and to decide whether to go left or right, which means life or death, to actually bounce back from the bottom, to reach where you are, to not just help yourself, but to help others around you, is absolutely commendable. So, anyone who's feeling low, who thinks that they need a bit of an upliftment to find that anchor, hear this conversation, talk to someone who you can confide in. Do not take a step which you may regret, or perhaps the people behind you may regret that why did we not have that conversation. Well,
yeah.
there is so much and more that I'm sure Richa can share with us. But for today, Richa, we will pause here. And I'm sure, you now being an integral part of Motherhood Club will keep sharing your insights and everything. And
Definitely.
if I can take the liberty here that on 13th September, I know it's a little far off, but we invite every one of you, be it a man or a woman, to have coffee with Richa, Ila, and me, Ekta. And by coffee, we mean coaching, financial freedom, enlighten, and empower. Join us for a very interesting and valuable conversation on 13th September. We will share the link and everything on Motherhood Club page for you to register. And let's together grow. And as I always say, that educate, empower, and enlighten yourself with passion, perseverance, and panache to be able to communicate consistently and with commitment. So thank you so much, Richa, for this wonderful conversation today, all the way from Norway, and you know, sharing your life so openly with all of us. So thank you so much, everyone who joined us. Richa, do read out comments. We got so engrossed in listening to you that I didn't read some of the comments. But before I go, let me read a few.
Yeah.
You are spreading so much sunshine and insight through smaller looking elements. That's what Mr. Bhatnagar is saying.
Thank you.
Sada is saying that a very good discussion, quite a productive one. And she's thanking Motherhood Club and me that we are connecting with such soulful and great people. Balance between the school and the parents makes an ideal education policy is what Sharmishta is saying all the way from Goa. So a
Yeah.
lot of interesting comments. Do read them, and
Yes, I
lots of
will.
love being showered on you. So thank you once again from the entire team of Motherhood Club, Ita, Ila, and Monica, and hope to be connected and talk to you very soon. So thank you,
Thank you so
everyone.
much for having me. And thank you, everybody, for your comments and all your love. Thank you so much.
Everyone, stay safe, and we'll keep getting you such interesting conversations, people from different walks of life who matter to themselves and to the world. Till we come back again, stay safe and take care. Signing off for today. This is Ekta Sehgal Malhotra. Bye bye, and have a great evening.